Moran here with Senior Housing Forum, and one of the things I love about my job is stories just come from weird, random places. Sometimes they're people I cross paths with in the middle of the night at a trade show, or sometimes they're something I read on the internet that just sparks my interest. And sometimes I get just these weird out-of-the-box emails, and weird out-of-the-box stuff really sort of intrigues me. So I got this email that said, media advisory, LoveJerks, holding out for a rocker video screening. And it was kind of like, I read through it and I sort of still went, huh? But I was curious enough to say, well, there's got to be a story. I mean, anybody that uses a title that LoveJerks. So LoveJerks is, I think I understand it. Actually, let me do an introduction here. So I am chatting with Mickey
Chanchosi,
who is the executive director at Watermark at Bayside Park.
That's us, yeah.
And which is, for people who are outside the West Coast, wouldn't necessarily know that. It's sort of in the San Francisco, Oakland area of California.
That's
and so with that so tell me about this email I got and what it's all about.
Sure. Well, actually, we were approached by the LoveJerks, who are a local rock and roll band in San Francisco, and they were doing their video promo for their their video called their song called "Holding Out for a Rocker." So these guys have been around San Francisco now, I believe in the Bay, for about 3 or 4 years. They've become pretty popular. They're on the the music scene in the Bay Area. They're both very young. The lead vocalist, the two lead vocalists, are a husband and wife team, and they put an anthem together about wanting to hold out for a rocker, what is really important for them in life. And they decided that they thought it'd be really fun to film it at a senior living community, and to sort of do sort of a montage of them meeting each other and having parallel visions of who they want to spend their life with, and then sort of taking that sort of idea of spending their life with that person and bringing it through the aging process. And then in the video, if you watch the video, you see the two the two protagonists actually becoming two older people that are residents. And they picked residents that match very well with how they look. And believe it or not, they each had very common themes in their past lives, which was really interesting to me. They came together and said, can we meet some of your folks first? And we said, of course. And we asked all our residents who wants to do it. And we had a lot of residents raise their hand and say, yeah, this sounds great. We'd love to. And so Rebecca and her husband, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now, came on out and met with our residents, and they identified with some people that they thought would really do well as them getting older.
And so how long did it take to shoot the thing?
Full day. It was a good 12 hours. They came early in the morning, set up equipment. We just had, we had so much fun doing it. Everybody, we had all these like crazy young people running over the building with, video cameras and microphones and equipment rolling, big things down the hallway. And we gave them a room to sort of stage in, which was pretty fun. And then we just did different, takes all over the building. So there was a producer, and then there was, somebody else who sort of made sure that the lighting was right and the cameras were at the right angle. And so it was really a production, but it was really fun. I think it took a full 12 hours, but I think even after they left, everybody was just wanting more. Everybody was so excited.
And so how many residents were actually involved in this?
Well, we had probably over 40 residents that were actually involved in the taping, but when it came down to it, I think probably about 20 were in the final cut of the video.
Cool. So can we actually see the video?
Of course.
Online?
You can. It's if you go just to YouTube and you go type in LoveJerks, holding out for a rocker, you will find it on YouTube, and you'll see Bayside Park and our residents, and you'll see how much fun it was.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I'll actually go find it, and I'm assuming I can get an embed code, and I'll actually embed it in the story itself, because this just is really, really cool. So will they come back and do another one, or do you think this is it?
I hope so. They came back, actually, they were here on Sunday. So the the press release you got was, they showed it here before they released it. So they came out and they had it, we held a party for all the residents to see the video, and we brought family members in and care staff and, everybody to watch it. And so it went sort of public right around the same time. I mean, the next day or so, they released it. But they actually had so much fun filming here that they asked if they could just come back and do a senior prom for our seniors. Meaning, like, could they just come and hold a party? And we were like, oh my God, anytime. They loved it. I mean, the connections that were made were remarkable. And I just, I know, Steve, I told you earlier, there was like a quick backstory to this. And as I was meeting with Rebecca, who was one of the lead vocalists, and we were, walking around the community, I said to her, this is really amazing. You don't see a lot of people, in their 20s that are doing rock videos that want to see aging portrayed in a positive way, right? Like I don't think young people really think about it. It's like aging, that's something way down the line. So she said, yeah, she said, no, I actually remember going to the assisted living home that my grandmother lived in Philadelphia when she was just a kid. And it was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And she goes, yeah, and we stayed in their guest apartment. And I said, well, guest apartment, not a lot of people have guest apartments. So I said, where was that? And she said, Logan Square. So it turned out it was a watermark community, just like this one. And there was this just really, positive connection with her. She said she loved going there. It was like one of her favorite things to do. So it just really spoke to me about, how when somebody's young, that, the impression that they get of a senior living community when it's done well, really just sort of, obviously followed her throughout her life for ways that she wanted to portray aging or felt about aging.
One of the observations that I've had is I've got a fair number of millennial friends, young families, and I think it has a lot to do with the way we, families geographically separate, which didn't used to happen, 50 or 100 years ago. That these young families find themselves not really having the same close connections with older folks, and I think that that's something they really crave. And I don't know that we as senior living folks really appreciate the opportunity that is there for us to really do deep dive engagement with some of these young families with kids and grandkids and that kind of thing. So did you get any residents who were unhappy with it, or any family members, or any pushback at all?
No, oddly enough, we did not. And it's slightly risque. I mean, I think some, for the older folks, maybe population. And one of the questions we did get was, one of the family members said, were you worried that it might be too risque? And the group said, well, no, we figured, everybody around here, was of the age that they've probably seen it all already. Yeah. And one of the residents raised their hand. She said, no, I take exception with that. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. What do you take exception with? And she said, well, not that it's risque. It's just that you use the word age. And we don't like the word age, but
yeah. That is very cool. Well, this is such a great story to me. And I think that for me, sort of the head fake story on it actually is that it portrays aging in such a positive light, because I think that that's an area as an industry we're not doing a very good job of, is actually figuring out how to do that. So maybe it'll be a bunch of millennials that teach us how to do that as well. So I'm pretty excited about it. I confess that I actually didn't go search for the music video yet, but as soon as we're done, I am going to go hunt for it. So I appreciate the story and the time, and I'm sorry that we had so many technical difficulties. It was unbelievable. It's been a disaster for me. Last week I was doing a video interview for the second time with somebody because I had a technical problem the first time, and then the camera died in front of her, and $1,000, now probably $1,500 later, I still don't have the new camera, but tomorrow it's supposed to show up. So I'm just sort of technically challenged this last couple of weeks, but we got this done, and I appreciate the time.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.